All right. Another video, another bit of me kind of repeating the same stuff, but I think it's important to say it's an either or world. I'll make this very, very simple. It's either you broadly support Western imperialism or you support, screw it, let's just go there, Chinese and Russian imperialism, if we want to see it that way, whether it's cultural or otherwise. This is the truth of the matter. And I would have to say I'm on Team China and Russia. Now, I probably speak Mandarin better than I do Russian. As crap as I, as crap as I can barely speak English some days. But the thing is that we have to realize this. You know, not just dissidents or whomever else. We as ordinary people need to realize this, and that we are simply stuck in the middle between a Chinese / Russian imperialism, to a point, like I say, more Chinese because they have more economic power than Russia does. Arguably. I know people are going to be like, I don't know. But versus that, you know, like I say, and even, you know, people will say, oh, look at all the horrible things America has done. Or even people like Daniel Dumdrill will say this. And is basically just kind of like another left-wing guy, except he sims for China. Western, you know, people that actually live in the United States or live in the UK or whichever will be like, yeah, the West is bad, and, you know, imperialism is bad, and the racism is bad, but it's better than what China and Russia are doing, right? That's really what it is. And we see more of this occurring. And if you truly are on the Western side, you're at least going to give lip service to Western values. What does that mean today? Well, that means gay rights. It means video games, apparently. It means consumerism. And it means, you know, just basically doing whatever the hell you want to, I guess. You know, and basically saying that, you know, you should be, it's just basically decadence. That's basically it. Western decadence, being able to do, you know, like I say, I'm sure that there will be a push more and more to allow, like, you know, drug use, this and that. Now, of course, like I say, I'm going to try to be somewhat better faith here. China has a huge drug problem as well. And they will execute drug dealers, absolutely. But you can still find drugs fairly easily. It's just, you know, you have to know where to look. But that's a whole other issue, and that's a whole other story, most of which I'm way out of my depth already. But we have to realize where we are, right? Now, of course, people like Daniel Dumdrill, I've seen some of his commentary. I think overall it's kind of boring. Because he sounds like a bread tuber, but he sims for China. That's basically it, in my opinion. And the thing is that these Westerners, like I say, it's one thing to be, you know, a big China simp and big China supporter, but another thing is just realizing what actually happens on the ground. Is that people like Daniel Dumdrill, people like that Nathan, I can't even think of his name because I don't care. Nathan Rich. That's it. Yeah, Nathan Rich and all these other folks who are on YouTube or wherever else who say, oh, you know, these Western monkeys, basically, who, you know, and they do call it monkey jobs, at least according to some. But anyway, these Western folks who live in China, the thing is, I've said this before and I'll say it again, is that you are not Chinese, you know. Well, Busher, you know, yeah, Ni Busher Zhongguoren. Or more specifically, Ni Busher Hanren. You're not Han. You're not Han Chinese. So the fact is that, yeah, they'll appreciate it. And I'm sure that the CCP, or excuse me, the CPC will be glad to keep you on. But the minute that you step out of line, you know, like I say, I see this even with Nathan Rich, who's trying to make these. He's trying to get like, people who make videos and stuff like that, and video editors and shit like that, to make these videos. He's got like thousands of videos to make on the history of China. And the thing is, he can't get anybody to produce it. Because why would you want, if you're Chinese, why would you want to work for an American? Oh, yeah, he is. I mean, Nathan Rich is an American. Why would you want to work for an American? Why? Like I say, I mean, I've heard a couple live streams where he kind of reveals his point of view, Nathan Rich, is that he can feel as he wants to about telling the truth, this and that. To me, he's just another grifter. He's one of these guys who's like, well, I have investments here, I have investments there, this and that. And that's the type of dude he is. He's, one of these ex-Scientologists and all this sort of thing. I just think he's full of shit. But we realize, though, is that at the end of the day, it is an either-or world. You either broadly support the Western world that supports gay rights and, supports free elections with heavy quotes, teaching women's studies and supporting feminism, or you cuck for, traditional, more, a Chinese sort of system or a Russian style system, which includes, like I say, there's a lot of question about how big and how much influence the triads have both in Hong Kong and in mainland China. There's a big question about that. Now, they do get arrested in mainland China, and they do get arrested in Hong Kong. But I would wager a guess that they still have a fair amount of power in some circles. It depends on what that means. But yeah, Hak Se Wui, as it's said in Cantonese, I would assume they have power. It's the same thing with Russian gangsters who, I do have a book on my shelf. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I know it's up here. I haven't got, oh yeah, here we go. Godfather of the Kremlin. So I think the shock rayist, he is the one that sent me a recommendation to say, could you do a video on Russian gangsters? And I will probably eventually do that. But I'm keep putting off this whole Junger, the worker thing. But I will eventually talk about it. But just to brief, I'll end with that. I'll end with a little bit about what I know about the Russian mob briefly, and I'll go from there. But as far as I know, most of the so-called Russian mafia, a lot of those folks come from Georgia. They're not actually Russian. In some cases, like I say, a lot of the folks are, but I think that where it started primarily was Georgia. And the modern Russian mafia started in the gulags, and a lot of them met up, as you do. And same thing with prison is that, you'll have the prison gangs and all that. And they, were all together, right? And so they had this loyalty of family, right? This idea of family between, we're going to support each other, this and that, we're going to make our money. The fact is that you then had the bitch wars that occurred after the Great Patriotic War, where some gangsters decided to go fight for the Red Army to smiat fascismu, right? Smiat fascismu, duh. So they wanted to smiat fascismu. Some of whom, but a lot of them, as far as I know, went back to the gulag. They were sent back. And a lot of those folks who were pro-Red Army and who had been in the Red Army, they were killed off. And more, especially when you get to the Brezhnev era, the gangs, the Russian mob had a fair amount of power. A lot of these folks started to flee to the United States, and they went to places like I'm trying to think. It's Brooklyn, the borough of Brooklyn, but Howard Beach. No, not Howard Beach. I'm trying to think of it now. Brighton Beach. Yeah, that's it. I had to think about it. Yeah. Brighton Beach, Sheepshead Bay, Staten Island. Yeah, Brighton Beach, Sheepshead Bay. Yeah, like I say, Brooklyn though. Brooklyn has always been kind of a rough area. I think people, like I said, Brooklyn, of course, has changed, between different groups, But yeah, many Russians in New York are Jews from the former Soviet Union, which broke up in 1991. Yeah. Primarily, Brighton Beach is Russian, as seen from businesses, clubs, and advertisements. A significant portion of the community is not proficient in English. About 98% speak Russian as their native language. So, in other words, they don't feel the need to enter into, but that's a larger issue on immigration, and we're not going to get into that. But yeah, the fact is that it's an either-or world, where you're either stuck between this or that. You can have your little LARP session all you want to, but the fact is, though, is that it will get swallowed up regardless. You cannot be a Leon deGrasse and think somehow that you're going to get your little mini empire within the Third Reich. No. You're just going to be swallowed in the Reich, and you're going to get your little whatever, right? It's the same thing with the Turks, the Turkmens, with the Ukrainians, or whoever. They were going to be swallowed up by the Reich anyway. A lot of them were going to be killed. It's the same thing with the West, though. I mean, it's the same thing with the Soviets, even. Is that you're not going to have your little empire. They're not going to allow that. So, just as just that book, I'm looking at the title again here, but Against Stalin and Hitler. It's this idea that, you're just stuck between these two forces, and, you're just stuck in the middle. And I'm coming around more and more to the idea that most folks, we don't have the ability to really fight these systems. All we can do ultimately, in my opinion, is give lip service to one side or the other and get in where you fit in. I used to, there was a time even last year where I LARPed and I thought, yeah, we're going to have balkanization, and somehow we're going to get hegemony and we're going to get support from Russia and China. It's like, why would they want to? They'll just take over various bits. Now they'll put in their own, puppets and everything else. They'll put in their folks that are, just do what, Moscow tells them or what Beijing tells them. But we have to realize this, is that it's either you choose Western hegemony, broadly speaking, or Chinese and Russian. That's it. Those are your choices in this world today. I mean, you could go ahead and try to be Iran and try to play both sides a little bit by saying, hey, can I get some help from Russia? And I mean, arguably, though, is that Iran gets more support for Russia and China than from anywhere else, right? Now, of course, they're a regional power, but ultimately, I think the IRGC and everything, they have their limits, right? So that's my take on it. I'm just starting to realize more and more the power of hegemony and the power that we don't have, that individuals and groups do not have. And ultimately, we all have to give lip service to one side or the other. Now, like I say, I will say it again. I would rather choose China and Russia over the West. Does that make me a traitor? Maybe. But I don't think the West cares about me either. The West fetishizes, and particularly the United States and Atlanticists or whatever, they fetishize the Afghan refugee far more than they care about me. They'll at least they'll give me some lip service and say, I know I've used lip service several times because I can't think of another word, but they'll at least give lip service to what I want, this and that, but I'm not going to be mentioned because I'm somebody that, is probably 3 or 4 generations deep in the United States, whereas the Afghan refugee is still has a twinkle in his eye towards the belief of democracy, whereas people like me don't really believe it. I don't know. At the end of this, maybe I'm just maybe I've finally taken the clear pill and stopped LARPing about some sort of balkanization or some sort of Wignat fantasy like, yeah, we're gonna have a Northwest front, bro. No, it's not gonna happen. It's either it's like that song by Black Sheep, right? You could do you could go with this or you could go with that. You could do with this or you could do with that. The choice is yours. Do 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 do. But that's pretty much what it is, isn't it? You're between a rock and a hard place. You know what? I think that's what I'm going to change this to. It's a rock and a hard place. Because this either or world, that sounds stupid. I'll just put it's a rock and a hard place. I'll just put a rock and a hard place. I'll just do that. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. It's unfortunate, but there's some forces that you cannot really fight the same way. You could get local limited victories, but does that mean that you win the war? Not really. So, I mean, if you want to be like Antifa or something like that and think that, oh, yeah, we're going to say that it's stolen land and stuff like that, or, go full on Jason Unruh and be like, yeah, decolonization, bro. Eventually, pan-Europeanism, we need to just have, Euro-Americans and Euro-Canadians leave the U.S. and, leave their lands and go back to Europe. And then, of course, he'll try to double down on it and say, I didn't mean it that way. But, that's a LARP. That's never going to happen. But anyway, I have said way too much, and I should stop. Please, I need to stop talking about Jason Unruh. It's just his LARP is so legendary. And it's amazing to me that he has been on YouTube for like 12 years or something like that. And his content is so shit. Now, my content is shit, but that's because I'm lazy. I'll admit it. But you have plenty of opportunities. You've talked with plenty of people. Why can't you have better content? Why can't you have better looking stuff? I've seen those bullshit documentaries that you put out that, you put your name to. I'm like, holy shit. Why would you? Anyway, I've given them far too much attention. Anyway, hopefully y'all enjoy that. So see you later. Bye-bye.